Well, hello, my fellow Americans and fellow Christians, and thank you for joining me for another day of the Word of the Lord here in the United States of America. Peace be unto you, and peace be unto the world. My fellow Americans and Christians, the times require for a new look at what evangelical Christianity has been preaching and the results it has brought to this country. First and foremost, there has been prophecies peddled in the name of the Lord by well-known preachers, and not one has come to pass. Particularly the prophecy of the president being the AntiChrist, which in many forms is anti-government and anti-American preaching. This attitude about the president and our government has spilled over into the mainstream news media, and many major networks are now on the bandwagon of anti-government reporting. This is, in my estimation, the wrong path to take in our country and hardly inspired by the Holy Spirit. I have stated elsewhere that prophecies and predictions, which fester speculation, is not only misleading, it is also considered lying in the name of the Lord. Such preaching divides us as a people and separates us into different opinionated groups, believing one way is more correct than the other. Second, the evangelical preachers of money and faith have a lot of explaining to do concerning the economic woes of our country and the closure of churches across America. The realization has struck at the heart of Christians that many wealthy preachers are living lavishly off the donations and purchases of Congregationalists, while in the meantime they are losing their homes, their jobs, and living on meager means. The thought is that preachers today are eating lobster and steak while their patrons are eating beans and franks. This falsifying of what a servant of Christ is to exemplify has brought in a form of greed that has made its way into the mainstream of American thought. It is no secret, at the time of great fiscal crisis in this country, it was an evangelical president and biblical administration that led this country into financial ruin. Third and lastly, Christianity is not, let me repeat that, is not a political entity. Men and women continue to meddle with the gospel and intentionally involve ministries in political forums. The outcome of such activities is the spirit of Antichrist. Christianity today wants to rule with the dictatorial power of religious ethics by law, seeking worship and living only one way in this nation, their way. This attitude destroys the freedom of choice and the willingness of men and women everywhere to choose their own path. In 1960, there was a movie called The Time Machine. It was written by H.G. Wells, and it was about a Victorian Englishman who travels to the far future and finds that humanity has been divided into two hostile species. But as a traveler stays in this futuristic world, he discovers a hidden barbaric and depraved subterranean class. Interesting enough, we see shadows of this visionary thought of H.G. Wells in our society today. Christians are slowly trying to make themselves into a separate class of people with a hostile point of view if citizens of the United States do not agree with them. This is contrary to the Constitution and preamble of the United States, which protects the liberty of all Americans to choose their own path. Christians today mock the Constitution of the country by imposing their view of how society should live, acting as if Christianity is the official religion of America. This strikes a blow at the harmony we should all achieve as fellow citizens in respect of what one another believes. This is dividing the country into subterranean classes with self-righteous attitudes of right and wrong. These are not culture wars, which folks like Bill O'Reilly likes to call them. It is downright psychological warfare, instituted by antagonism, instigated by preachers in this land. On top of this tomfoolery, the Christian time machine of prophecy has been wrong for generations, and the outlandish ideas of the future borderlines on lunacy. You can order or pick up prophetic books from the past and see how absurd some of the predictions have been. Most of these predictions are by well-known preachers and successful preachers in this country. Unbelievably, conspiracy theorists and Christian conspiracy theorists, Christian preachers, are now inclusive in trying to visualize the future with acclamations of aliens visiting our planet and changing the course of the history of the world. This is bizarre to say the least and is contrary to the Scriptures and what Christ taught. America is still a pretty doggone place to live, despite all our difficulties. However, Christianity needs to take a chill pill and get back to staying in the church and out of the American mainstream and away from prophetic predictions. False Christianity has been extremely damaging to the reputation of Christ and the Holy Spirit. Our nation is morally corrupt in many forms, and Christian preachers are to blame for such shenanigans. They have not done their duty to Christ in staying away from fame and celebrity. They should have been preaching only what the Holy Spirit has inspired them to say. Preachers today tickle the fancy of the listeners and do not preach the gospel of standards and ideals of living that enhances and strengthens a nation. They should never be pressuring society to accept such ideals, but allow society to decide for themselves how they would choose to live their life, just as Christ did. The Holy Spirit does not need the United States to promote the kingdom of heaven. The Holy Spirit does not need famous preachers, mega preachers, Christian activists to move upon men and women. Quite the contrary. It has done quite well without any such hoopla. John the Baptist, Christ the Lord, and only 12 apostles founded the very church we have today. They had no radio, no TV, no telecommunications, and no money, just the Holy Spirit. This should be enough to humble any Christian today and singe in their conscience the ability of God to accomplish with small and meager means. The power and strength society can experience today is limited because of the pressure system that has raised its head in this nation as far back as the 70s through Christianity. Generally, most people are of good will until they are asked to perform or live the opposite in which they choose. This is where we are at in today's society. Get those pressure ideas out of your system. Stay away from going down the same path day after day. Open up new avenues of thinking. Explore beyond your current thoughts. And do what you want to do instead of what someone else wants you to do. Be who you want to be. Be where you like and go with it and learn from it. Do what makes sense to you. And do not worry what people think. What people think is their problem. If you find yourself blocked, then find out what the message is. Find out what the main obstruction is and act upon it. This is what can help open up excitement of life, destroy slave morality, and put us in touch with who we are meant to be. Ask the good Lord for guidance, and you shall find it. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.